Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskarams to all of you. I thank Shankara Hall office bearers for giving me this opportunity to talk about Nayanmar in Tiruppugazh. Nayanmar are the saints described in Periya Purāṇam, and the plural word Nayanmar is itself refers to all of them together. The singular word is Nayanar. This is why I have not used the word Nayanmars in the title. Nayanmar in Tiruppugazh refers to the various saints who are mentioned by Saint Aruṇagirinātha in his beautiful compositions called Tiruppugazh. A brief introduction to Tiruppugazh itself. It was composed by Saint Aruṇagirinātha, who lived in the 14th century. Tiruppugazh is among the many works of Sri Aruṇagirinātha, such as Kandar Anubhuti, Kandar Alankaram, Kandar Andadi, Tiruvahuppus. All these are his various other works, and all of them, including Tiruppugazh, are in praise of Subramanya, Muruga, who is his Ishtadevata. The picture here shows us the story of his life. So the story goes that he had lost interest in living due to various reasons and decided to end his life by jumping off the tall Gopuram in the temple town of Tiruvannamalai. And as he attempted this act, Lord Muruga caught him with his own hands and blessed him with Jnana. He gave him Jnana Upadesha and asked him to sing his praises. And when Aruṇagirinātha said that he would not know how to compose poems in praise of Muruga, Muruga himself gave him the starting word, Muttaittaru, and that is why the first Tiruppugazh begins with those words. The unique and very beautiful characteristic of Tiruppugazh is the cadence, chandam, or rhythm of the verses. The verses are so perfect in rhythm that it is impossible to find even one small phrase or component out of rhythm. It is very rhythmic and therefore a delight for people to sing, and even for the people who play on percussion instruments. The songs, each stanza of the song has a chanda kurip, which means the pattern in which that song is written, and that is faithfully followed in every stanza of the verse. For example, one of the lines may be tattanana 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 tattanana. Then you would find that the first line of every stanza would be exactly the same cadence. So this is about the greatness of Tiruppugazh, which is not just a beautiful work of poetry but considered as a Maha Mantra, a very powerful way to appease Muruga and get all that we need from him with his grace. We have already seen Chanda Kurippu, one important feature of Tiruppugazh. Let's look at some other unique features here. First is, in Tiruppugazh, all deities of Shanmatam are praised. Shanmatam, the worship of 6 deities as established by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. The worship of Surya, Shiva, Shakti, Vishnu, Muruga and Ganapati. Aruṇagirinātha has mentioned all these gods with great reverence and devotion. There are in fact a few songs dedicated to the Ganapati, because he is the god we begin all our activities with. So even Tiruppugazh singing begins with those Tiruppugazhs exclusively on Ganapati. But even in many other songs, he praises the greatness of Ganapati and then says, Muruga, you are the younger brother of this great Lord. Similarly, he sings the praises of Shiva and Shakti. He describes their names and Leelās and says, you are the son of this great Lord and this great goddess. And Vishnu's great Leelās, especially his exploits in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, are described in great poetic detail in Tiruppugazh. And he says, O Muruga, You are the nephew of this great Lord who did all these things, who destroyed all these evil forces. Surya again is mentioned in a few Tiruppugazhs with reverence as the one who lights up the world. So all gods are mentioned, and that too with lot of detail and ardor. That is the unique feature here. So though the Tiruppugazh songs are all in praise of Subramanya, they are all connected to the other gods, and finally it comes down to Subramanya. He is connected to them, and then the prayer is always to Subramanya. He is praised and said, you should grant me these boons, or you should appear in front of me, etc. So in this manner, Tiruppugazh transcends many conflicts that existed in his days as well as continue to exist now. First is the Shaiva Vaishnava Bheda. So there is no Bheda Bhavam. As we saw, he praises both these gods very beautifully. There is no conflict between Jnana and Bhakti. Aruṇagirinātha himself has experienced the Advaita experience. The Jnanopadesham of Muruga led him to that realization of oneness with the Parabrahma. But at the same time, he has continued to praise Muruga and seek his devotion. He keeps asking, give me love towards your golden sacred feet. And he says, please appear in front of me. Give me your Upadesha. So these beautiful bhakti-laden prayers we find a lot in Tiruppugazh. There is also no conflict between using of Tamil and Sanskritam in Tiruppugazh, because in many songs Aruṇagirinātha uses a style called the Mani Pravala. Mani here refers to pearls, and Pravala, as we know, is coral. So just like one can string pearls and corals together to make a beautiful necklace, stringing Tamil and Sanskrit together to create a work of poetry or prose has been a style followed in many places, many authors. For example, in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, many books are written in that style. So we find such a style in many Tiruppugazh songs also. And this again tells us that both these languages are beautiful, and both are to be considered like the two eyes of those who know these two languages. There is no need to put down one to glorify the other. The other very interesting fact about Tiruppugazh is that Tiruppugazh was lost to our society because it was all obviously stored in palm leaves and scattered in many places. It was rediscovered in Chidambaram, or the act which led to rediscovery happened in Chidambaram, and that's a very beautiful coincidence. Rather, it's a beautiful divine act, we should say, because Chidambaram is where the Tirumurais, the Thevarams, were also rediscovered. You all would have heard of the story of Nambiyandar Nambi and Rajaraja Chola, how they went to Chidambaram and got the palm leaves where all the Thevaram verses were stored and restored them and brought them back into circulation by making many copies and teaching them to many people, etc. So let's see what happened to Tiruppugazh in this context. The credit of rediscovering Tiruppugazh goes to a great soul called Vadakkupattu Sri Subramaniya Pillai. He was a writer in the court in Manjakupam, and he knew English, so he was the English writer of cases at that time during the British rule. In 1871 he was employed there, and that year a particular case came up for hearing, and that was a case where the Dikshitars of Chidambaram were contesting that the right to take care of their temple and the administration of the Nataraja Swami temple in Chidambaram has been their hereditary privilege and right for a very long time, and amongst the various evidences or proofs that they produced, one was a verse from Tiruppugazh. The Tiruppugazh which starts with the words Tadu Mamalar Mudiyale. In that there is a verse, one stanza which says, வேத நூன்முறை வழுவாமேதினம் வேள்வியால் எழில் புனை மூவாயிர மேன்மை வேதியர் மிகவே பூசனை புரிகோவே. Here Aruṇagirinātha actually equates Muruga with Shiva, and he says you are worshipped by the 3000 Dikshitars, the Vediyars of Chidambaram, who perform various yajnas, velvis, and they are the ones who are adept in the Vedas. So hearing this verse, as he was writing it down as a part of the case, Sri Subramanya Pillai was awestruck by the beauty and the arrangement of the poetry. He immediately wanted to know more about Tiruppugazh, and he found that various people had one or two songs, a few songs with them, and there was no collection of Tiruppugazh songs, and there was no book available to read it from. So he was very eager that such a book should get created. It is very important. So he immediately started the task of collecting manuscripts which contained Tiruppugazh, or writing down from people who knew, and he collected hundreds of Tiruppugazh by wandering to many places in Tamil Nadu, and then he printed the first few hundred songs. Around 400 songs were the first set printed by him, and after that people were able to access all these, and the fame of Tiruppugazh was really grew after that, and people realized the greatness of Tiruppugazh, and many people started singing it, and amongst these we will see who are the others who spread it more. The mission of Subramanya Pillai was carried forward by his son Vadakkupattu Sengalvarayar, and this Sengalvarayar was actually given a title called Thanigai Mani by one of the Shaiva Adhina Mats, and this Thanigai Mani is actually a very great scholar, and he was a devotee of this Swamigal called Vallimalai Sachidananda Swami. You all would have heard of Vallimalai Swamigal. He was actually a great Siddha Purusha, a divine seer who inspired thousands of people to learn Tiruppugazh and live a very divine and holy life. So this Vallimalai Swamigal also chanced upon one particular Tiruppugazh called Vangara Marbil, which we will actually refer to today later, and he heard it in a dance which was being performed by a Devadasi in front of the Lord in Palani. Again he was awestruck by the beauty of this Tiruppugazh, and he had this great desire to learn all these songs. So he looked for a book, and the book that he got was the first book which had been printed, published by Subramanya Pillai. And with that, those 400 songs, he memorized all of them, and strangely he did not even know how to read Tamil first. So for the sake of Tiruppugazh, he learnt to read Tamil alphabet. He had actually been educated in Kannada. So he learnt Tamil, and then he went deep into Tiruppugazh and memorized all of them, and really realized the grace of Muruga through that. And he is of course a great tapasvi in his own right. So he spread Tiruppugazh very widely, and it is a very interesting incident of both these great souls, Thanigai Mani and Vallimalai Swamigal. They happened to come to Tirutani on the same day at the same time, and then when he was singing these songs, Swamigal was singing these songs, Thanigai Mani asked him about the book, from where he got these songs, and when he mentioned, he said, that is my father's publication. They were so delighted to meet each other, and obviously it was not coincidence, it was a meeting engineered by the Lord of Tirutani himself. And after that, Thanigai Mani became a great devotee of this Swamigal and did many things with his blessing. Some of the things that he has accomplished in his lifetime, he has actually done what many institutions would be required to do. As a single person, he has done. He has written a commentary for all the Tiruppugazh songs. He has written commentaries for all the other works of Aruṇagirinātha also. These are all very useful works, because Tiruppugazh is after all a work which is several centuries old. So the understanding of the language is not easy to most people, even if they are good at Tamil. So he provided that insight with his great bhakti and knowledge, and he has also written a very interesting work, compiled rather, a very interesting work called the Oli Neri, which is basically the concordance of many works like the Tevaram and Tiruvasakam and all. Concordance means the list of all words used in that text. Basically, every single word, A to Z, is arranged in the alphabetical order of that language, and all the occurrences of that word are recorded under it. So it's a very quick way to search or get an idea. It's a research work basically to understand how the words and what words are used in the particular text. So he has done this concordance for many works for which are all part of the Shaiva Tirumurai. So we saw what a concordance means. The concordance for Tiruppugazh has been done by Dr. V.C. Shashivalli, who is the daughter of Tanigaimani Sengalvarayan. So, carrying on the illustrious tradition of her family, she has compiled this great book, which gives us a lot of facts about the words used in Tiruppugazh, as well as the contents, the various ideas and stories being referred to in Tiruppugazh. It's a great work of research which is of great help to those who want to delve into Tiruppugazh. Now there is a reason why I have spoken about these great people. Of course, it's very important for us to know about them because these are people we should be thanking every day. Just like Shri Uve Swaminatha Iyer is remembered for his great task in walking to many places, going to many places in Tamil Nadu and collecting rare manuscripts and printing many of those books, including Silapadigaram, Manimeghalai, Sangam poetry, etc. The similar work for Tiruppugazh has been done by this family. So they are people we should remember with great reverence and gratitude. So this book has been one of the sources for my talk today. Before we delve into Nayanmar in Tiruppugazh, a short introduction to the Nayanmar themselves. They are Shaivite saints. All of them are very great devotees of Shiva. Most of them lived between the 6th and 9th century, which is around 1400 years ago onwards. But there are a few of them like Karikal Ammayar, Chandeshwara Nayanar, Kannappar and Tirumular. These are amongst very ancient saints. They lived in the time immemorial, we should say, thousands of years ago. The Nayanmar are 63 in number. The 63 Nayanmar are individuals, each one with a very inspiring story. But there are also 9 Nayanmar who are actually Podu Adiyars. In other words, they represent a class or a category of devotees. So for example, there would be a category called Paramanaye Paduvar. This refers to all great musicians who use their musical abilities only to sing about God and do not sing in praise of human beings or other topics. So like this, you have categories. These don't have individual names or individual stories. It's just the characteristics. So this actually shows that even today we would have some Nayanmar living amongst us. Anyone who falls under these 9 categories are also Nayanmar. They are therefore innumerable in number. But the individuals listed in the famous book of Sekilar, Periya Purāṇam, they are 63 in number. Amongst those 63, 3 of them are very important, very famous because they are the composers of the divine verses called the Tevaram. So let's look at them first. The 3 Nayanmar who are called the Tevara Mover, meaning the 3 saints who created the Tevaram, are firstly Jnānasambandha, who is always a child because he lived only till the age of 16 upon this earth, and he actually started composing from a very young age. The second is Tirunavukkarasar, who is shown always as a very humble and service-minded devotee. He is always shown with his hoe, which is a gardening tool. He always used to visit temples and perform the seva, physical seva, with his hoe by removing the weeds which crowd the temple premises. The third is Sundaramurti. He is also called as Nambiyarurar. He is always shown in the garb of a bridegroom. He's always shown holding a stick and a bunch of flowers, because it was on his wedding day that Shiva came to him and made him his devotee, and therefore he was asked by Shiva to remain in that guise of a bridegroom at all times. So he's always very beautifully decked. So Jnānasambandha is called Sambandar for short. Tirunavukkarasar is referred to as Appar, and Sundaramurthy is called Sundarar for short. So since their names are very long, people generally use the short forms of Sambandar, Appar and Sundarar to refer to these great saints. Let's see the Nayanmar who are mentioned in Tiruppugazh. 9 of them have references in Tiruppugazh. Amongst them is, of course, the first 3 are, of course, the Devara Mover. Sambandar has multiple references in Tiruppugazh. Appar is not mentioned by name, but there is an indirect reference to his sister Tilakavatiyar in one of the songs of Tiruppugazh. Sundarar is mentioned many times in Tiruppugazh. His wife Paravai Nācchiyār is also mentioned in some of these songs. There is, of course, description of Kannappar, the hunter who was a great devotee of Shiva and whose sacrifice is unparalleled and something which we even now read about and feel thrilled to know. Kannappar's great puja and his sacrifice are referred to in Tiruppugazh. Sirutondar is one more Nayanar who is mentioned in Tiruppugazh not directly but indirectly. His act or deed is mentioned in the song of Tiruchengattankudi where he lived. Then we have references to Mangayarkarasi, the queen of the Pandya country, who was a great devotee of Shiva. In fact, Mangayarkarasi is also a devotee of Sambandar himself. She had considered Sambandar as her guru, and she invited him to the Pandya country for the sake of her husband, who is mentioned next in this list, Nindrasir Nedumaran. Nindrasir Nedumaran was initially a Jain king, and also he was hunchbacked, so he was called Koon Pandyan. By the grace of Sambandar, he converted to Shaivism, and also he became, his form became one of a very handsome and erect standing man. That's why he gets the title Nindrasir Nedumaran. Then there is a mention of Neelakanta Yalpanar, who is one of the devotees or followers of Sambandar again. He was always with Sambandar, Jnānasambandha, and he used to play on his yard the songs or the Tevaram verses composed by Sambandar. So he used to set them, and he used to immediately play them to accompany the singing of Sambandar, and therefore made it very beautiful and appealing to everybody. And he was greatly devoted to Sambandar, and he considered it his great privilege to play all these songs. So his mention is found in one of the songs of Tiruppugazh. Then finally we come to Cheraman Perumal, a Chera king, who was devoted to Sundarar, and he was also a friend of Sundarar. And the story of how both of them traveled to many places together and finally even ascended to Kailasa together is a very fascinating story. Now, each of these Nayanmar have very wonderful, fascinating stories, which obviously we would not have the time to discuss now. So I would request you all to go and read some versions of Periya Purāṇa to understand the great deeds of these people and the very interesting and sometimes really mind-boggling details of the great deeds that they have done, to understand why Nayanmar have this great reverence, the place in the hearts of all people, including other saints. So even we find saints like Ramana Maharshi, Swami Shivananda, and many such great people have held the Nayanmar in great reverence, and it's interesting to understand that. Jnānasambandha or Sambandhar is the foremost amongst the Acharyas of Shaiva. He has a very exalted place, and in fact in the Shaiva Tirumurais we find that there are many works in praise of Sambandhar himself. And when it comes to Aruṇagirinātha, he has said that Sambandar is none other than Muruga himself, Subramanya himself. So he has described his Leelās in many songs and said, Muruga, you have done all this when you were born as Sambandar in Sirigari. And Sambandar's uniqueness is that he started composing Tevaram at the age of 3, the youngest composer definitely in history. And he has been composing for many years till the age of 16. And at the age of 16, during his wedding, he prayed for mukti for everyone there. So there was a huge jyoti which appeared, and all the people who attended the wedding, which include actually 3 other Nayanmar also, they were invited to Shivaloka, and the whole wedding group went into the Shiva Jyoti, and finally Jnānasambandha along with his bride, he too entered the Jyoti, and they all became one with Shiva. They all went to Kailasa. So in fact the event happened in a place called Achalpuram or Perumana Nallur, and the Lord is called Shivaloka Tyagar because he gave Shivalokam to everyone, even to the undeserving people who had just come to attend the wedding. So he's called Shivaloka Tyagar. So the greatness of Sambandar is something which requires a lot of description. So I'm stopping with this here. Just a quick look at the pictures given here. The first picture shows an icon of Sambandar made from the Chola times. In fact, this dancing pose of Sambandar is something which many would confuse to be Krishna's. So when it is Lord Krishna depicted as a child, he is in the same pose, but his right hand would be holding a ball of butter, whereas Sambandar's is shown as pointing to something. So that what is he pointing to? For that, let us look at the second picture. The second picture shows the very important event in his life. When he was a 3-year-old, he had come to the temple tank of Sirigari with his father, and when his father was bathing, he had asked him to sit on the steps, and suddenly when the father took a snanam of by going into the water, immersed himself in the water, this child could not see his father, and he cried saying Amme Appa. And when he cried, he looked at the Gopuram, the Vimana of the Lord there in Sirigari, and Shiva and Parvati appeared there on their Rishabha, and Parvati gave him her divine milk in a golden cup. And with that, he acquired Shiva Jnanam. Para and Apara Jnanam completely were given to him, and he became a great realized soul, well versed in all the Shastras and Vedas and everything, and all the arts. So this child, immediately when the father came out of the tank, he was shocked to see that the child had milk coming out of his lips, and he asked him, "Who gave you this milk?" And immediately the child, with his young little tender finger, pointed to the Vimana of Thoniyappar, Lord Śiva there, and said, "Todudaya Seviyan," and said, "Pemman ivanandre, isn't this the Lord who gave me this milk?" So this was an answer, the verse itself is an answer to his father's question. So this pointing to the Lord is what is shown in the icons of Sambandar when he is depicted as a small dancing child. But in fact, in many other vigrahas, he is shown with a golden talam, which he is using to sing while he composed the Tevarams. Now, let's look at the Tiruppugazh, which talks about Jnānasambandha. In this, Aruṇagirinātha places a request to Muruga. He says, "Help me or bless me to compose verses in your praise which are also Amrita Kavis like those of Sambandar." Sambandar's Tevaram are aptly called as Amrita Kavi because they are immortal. They can make us immortal. In fact, many of those Tevaram verses have been composed to bring back dead people to life or to cure incurable diseases, etc. So it is literally Amrita Kavi, and Aruṇagirinātha's prayer, as we know, has been answered because we find that many Tiruppugazh songs also have that same glory and the same mantra shakti which is there in the works of Sambandar, and we can chant either the Tevaram verses or these Tiruppugazh songs, whichever we know well, to get rid of diseases and acquire whatever we want in this world. So he says, Pumi adanil prabhuvana pugaliyil vittagar pola. Like this Pugali Vittagar, which means the great wise child of Pugali. Pugali is another name of one of the many names of Sirgari. So Jnānasambandha was born in Sirgari, so he is being referred to as Pugalil Vittagar. And he has such a great exalted position, and that's why he is called as Bhumi Adanil Prabhuvana Pugalil Vittagar. One who is the Lord, ruling over all the Shaiva Bhaktas in this world. Like him, Amrita Kavi Todai Pada Adimai Tanakka Arulvaye. I am your slave, I am your Adimai. Therefore, you must bless me to sing Amrita Kavi just like the verses of Sambandha. In the second half, he glorifies Muruga as when the Asuras came to fight with you, you hurled this powerful veil of yours and destroyed them. And you are the embodiment, essence of Namah Shivaya, the Panchakshara. And you are the Lord of Rajatagiri. Rajatagiri means the silver mountain. It is another name of Kailasa. So this Tiruppugazh is composed in the Sthalam, Kailasam itself, and on the Sthalam, Kailasam itself. And it has been tuned very beautifully by Guruji Shri A.S. Raghavan, which we shall listen to now. Pumiyadanir Prabhuvan Pugalil Vittagar Pola. Pumiyadanir Prabhuvan Pugalil Vittagar Pola. Amirtha Kavi Todai Pada, Amirtha Kavi Todai Pada, Adimai Thana Karulvaye. Amirtha Kavi Todai Pada, Adimai Thana Karulvaye. Samarile Dirtha Sur Mala Taniyayil Vittarulvone. Samarile Dirtha Sur Mala Taniyayil Vittarulvone. Namah Shivaya Porulane, Namah Shivaya Porulane, Rajatagiri Perumale. Namah Shivaya Porulane, Rajatagiri Perumale. Bhumi Adanir Prabhuvana Pugalil Vittagar Pola. Amirtha Kavi Todai Pada, Adimai Thanakkarulvaye. Rajatagiri Perumale. Next, we shall look at Appar, who is also known as Tirunavukkarasar. He was born in a very pious Shaiva family, but having lost his parents very early, he somehow turned to the Jain religion and became a great guru in Jainism. He was known as Dharmasena. He was a sannyasi there. After many years of being in that religion, once he was afflicted by unbearable stomach pain, and finding that nothing worked, he could not be cured after trying out many different methods. He finally returned to his sister. His sister, a great lady called Tilakavati, herself was leading a life of penance in Tiruvadigai, a place near Pandruti today. So when her brother came back to her after many years, it was actually a result of her prayers to Shiva. She had been very aggrieved that her brother had gone away from Shiva Bhakti, and she had been praying to the Lord to bring him back. And in fact, it was in answer to her prayers that this ailment was given to him. And finding that nothing worked, when he finally thought of his sister and came to her, she gave him vibhuti to apply, and she took him to the temple in Tiruvadigai, and there they both worshipped the Lord. And Appar burst out into a very touching, beautiful verse, Kutrayinavaru, that is his first Tevaram, and he was cured immediately, and obviously he became very devoted to Shiva, and he went around singing many verses in praise of Shiva in many places. Both these siblings were born in Tiruvamur, a place near Viluppuram, and Appar is an epitome of service and humility and melting devotion. It is impossible to feel moved by these qualities that we see in his verses when we read any of them. So let us see how Aruṇagirinātha has described this lady. Let's look at the Tiruppugazh, which has an indirect reference to Appar and his sister. This is a Tiruppugazh composed in the Sthalam, Tiruvamur, which is where Appar and Tilakavatiyar were born. So, here the first half of the Tiruppugazh has a Nayaki Bhava, meaning it requests Muruga to come and bless this girl who is pining for him. Then the second half, Aruṇagirinātha says, Mādu Pugazhai Valarkum Tiruvamur Vazhum Maililirukkum Kumaresa. O Lord Kumara, you travel on a peacock everywhere, and you reside in this town called Tiruvamur, the temple of Tiruvamur, where the praise or the glory of this lady is spreading all the time. The temple that spreads the glory of the Madhu, a lady. So here he has left it so subtle. He has not even mentioned the name of Tilakavatiyar, but obviously when you say the lady born in Tiruvamur who's connected to the temple, it has to be only Tilakavatiyar, because we all owe a very deep debt of gratitude to her, because it was due to her prayers and penance that Tirunavukarasar was brought back to Shaivism, and he blessed us with so much beautiful body of work and a very inspiring life with so many amazing incidents. In the last two lines, Aruṇagirinātha says, Kādal adiyar karuttin peruvalve, Kālan mudugai virikkum perumale. You reside in the hearts of loving devotees as their great treasure, and you are the Lord who can destroy Yama for us, Yama Bhayam for all of us, and give us Sadgati. We will now listen to this song. Sītamadiyam yerikkum talalale, Siri madanan valaikkum silayale, Sītamadiyam yerikkum talalale, Siri madanan valaikkum silayale, Odamaruvi alaykum kadalale, Uzhiravu tolaykum padiyodan. Odamaruvi alaykum kadalale, Uzhiravu tolaykum padiyodan. Mādu Pugazhai Valarkum let's now see about Sundarar or Sundaramurti Nayanar, the third of the Tevara mover. He was born upon this earth. He came from Kailasa. He was one of the Ganas there. He came here due to the will of Shiva. He was named Nambiyarurar by his parents. He was born in a family of Shivacharyas. He has two interesting titles, Vantondar and Tambiran Tholar. Tambiran Tholar means a friend of the Lord. So just as Jnānasambandha practiced the Satputra Margam, he was a child of Shiva and Parvati. And Tirunavukarasar practiced the Dasa Margam. He considered himself always to be the slave or servant of Shiva. Sundaramurti is considered the friend of Shiva. He followed the Sakhya Bhakti or Sakha Margam. And because of this, his songs, we find that he takes a lot of liberty with the Lord. Sometimes he would even scold the Lord out of his love. And that is why he is called Vantondar. He often uses strong language in his songs to indicate the closeness or the liberty that he has as a friend. His wife is a lady, Paravai Nācchiyār, who is a great Shiva Bhakta by herself. In fact, it is their Bhakti which brought them together. They both resided in Tiruvarur, and that's why we see a picture of Tiruvarur Tyagesha with Sundaramurti Nayanar and Paravai Nācchiyār standing on either side. They both are very, very devoted to him. And when Sundaramurti Nayanar went on a pilgrimage to many other kshetras, he came to Tiruvattriyur, and there he married a lady called Sangiri Nācchiyār. In fact, these two marriages were destined in Kailasa itself. So when this happened and when he returned to Tiruvarur, Paravai Nācchiyār was not happy with this incident, and therefore she refused to see him or allow him into the house. So Sundaramurti Nayanar went to his friend's house. In other words, he went to Tyagesha's temple, and he told his friend, you have to mediate between us. You have to take my message to Paravai and appease her. Ask her to accept me again. And Lord Shiva, he actually did this not once but twice. First he went in the guise of a Shivacharya, and Paravai refused to listen to him. She said, no, please don't force me to forgive him. I cannot forgive what he has done. But the second time Shiva went in his Swarupa with all the Ganas and all the Devas following him, and seeing that wonderful retinue and seeing the Lord in all his magnificent glory, Paravai was enthralled, and she said, how can I refuse your word, my Lord? Of course, I will accept my husband again and forgive everything that he has done. So they were reunited and they lived happily after that. So this story of Lord Shiva taking Sundaramurti's message to Paravai has been celebrated by many people as an instance of his saulabhya, how accessible and simple he is to his devotees. He is willing to in fact serve them even though they are his servants or devotees. So this event has been sung by Aruṇagirinātha in a few Tiruppugazh. Let us look at them now. So in this Tiruppugazh, he tells Muruga, Paravaikku ettanai visai thoodu pahararkku utravar ena maan un marabukku uchita prabhuvaga varam mettattara varuvaye. So ettanai visai means so many times Paravaikku thoodu pahararkku utravar. He went to convey a message to Paravai, your father. This is the kind of legacy you have in your family. Your father is such a great, approachable and such a kind Lord. So, ena maan un marabu. This is the glorious legacy you have. Therefore, you must act according to that, and similarly be very, very generous with us, very kind to us. Marabukku uchita prabhuvaga. Be a Lord who is befitting of this kind of a tradition or a family legacy, and varam mettattara varuvaye. Come and give us lots of boons. Such a beautiful prayer he puts to Muruga, bringing the Sundaramurti connection and asking him to be very kind to him. And then the next half he describes Muruga as Karada Karpaga Nilayone. You are the younger brother of Ganapati. Kalai Virkat Kura Magal Kelva. You are the Lord of Valli Kuramagal, who has very beautiful eyes and eyebrows. Aranukku Uttradu Pugalvoni. You did the Upadesha of the greatest truth, the Pranava, to your father, Hara, Shiva. Ayanai Kuttiya Perumali. You also gave a clout to Brahma, punished him because he did not know the meaning of Pranava, and you wanted to chastise him. So, this song, which has been tuned in Purna Chandrika by Dr. S. Ramanathan, we shall be listening to now. Paravai kettanai visai toodu Pagarar kutravar Nayanmār un Paravai kettanai visai toodu Pagarar kutravar Nayanmār un Marabu kuchita prabhuvaga Varamettattara varuvaye Varabu kuchita prabhuvaga Varamettattara varuvaye Karadakarpagan ilayone Kalaivirkatkura magal kelva Karadakarpagan ilayone Kalaivirkatkura magal kelva Aranukkutradu pugalvone Ayanai kuttiya perumale Aranukkutradu pugalvone Ayanai kuttiya perumale Kalaivirkatkura magal kelva Varamettattara varuvaye. Next, let us see about Siruthonda Nayanar. He was originally called Paranjoti, that was his given name, and he was the commander of the Pallava army under the king Narasimhavarma I. This king has a title called Vatapi Kondan, the one who conquered Vatapi. Vatapi is the modern day Badami. So the Pallava army under the command of Paranjoti went to Badami or Vatapi and conquered the Chalukya king and his army completely. And when the army came back so victoriously, the king came to know about Paranjoti's great Shiva Bhakti, and then he said, it is not right on my part to retain you in the service of the army anymore, in my service anymore. So please go back to your village and practice Shiva Bhakti to your heart's content. So accordingly, Paranjoti came back to Tiruchengattankudi and he called himself Siru Tondar, a small or a minor devotee, just the extent of his humility. When Jnānasambandha came to Tiruchengattankudi, he has praised Siru Tondar in all his Tevara Padigams composed in that kshetra, which itself shows his great bhakti. In this picture, we see the Lord in a very unusual form. He's called Uttarapathishwarar. He came in the form of a Shaiva devotee, one who practices one of the Shaivism forms from North India, which is why he's called Uttarapathishwara. And in that form, he came to Tiruchengattankudi, and Sirutondar, who was looking out for some Shiva Bhakta who he could feed that day, saw this Bhakta and asked him to come home to eat. And the demand of the Lord was a very terrifying one. He said, I want to eat only the child of my Bhakta, of a Bhakta who has been killed by his own parents and cooked into a meal. But Sirutondar, out of his great Shiva Bhakti, agreed to such a such an impossible demand. And what is more, his great pious wife, Tiruvenkaattu Nangai, she too agreed to go along. She wanted to save the life of her husband. She knew that he would not bear it if he could not feed the Shiva Bhakta that day. And even more surprising, this 5-year-old child who was so mature beyond his age, he said, this body, human body, which is of no use once it dies, is now actually being of use to a bhakta. What more can I ask for? And with that, the three of them prepared this meal, and their maid, Chandana Nangai, who's also seen in this picture. You can see Shirutondar with his wife and child, and this Chandana Nangai. All of them prepared this and ensured that the meal was fed successfully, at the end of which the child, of course, was brought back to life, and Shiva and Parvati and Muruga, all three of them appeared. Shiva appeared as Somaskanda on his Rishabha to give mukti to this entire family and this lady, Chandana Nangai. So, this very touching story has been mentioned by Aruṇagirinātha in his Tiruppugazh, composed in that particular kshetram, Tiruchengattankudi. Let us see that. The Tiruppugazh composed in Tiruchengattankudi starts with the words Vangara Marbilani. In fact, this particular Tiruppugazh has an important significance. This was the Tiruppugazh that was heard by Vallimalai Swamigal in Palani when Devadasi was offering her dance to the Lord for this song. And this was what captivated his heart and turned him towards Tiruppugazh, which has been a blessing for everyone. So in this song, in the last verse, Aruṇagirinātha refers to Muruga as, you reside in this place called Chengadu, which is another way of saying Tiruchengattankudi. And here you shine on a very beautiful, brilliant peacock. And not only that, you accept the garland of songs or words that I have made, this song that I have made for you. And this is the same Tiruchengattankudi where Entholar, Lord Śiva, who has 8 arms, this is how he is referred to in many Tamil works. Entholar, Kadal kodu kadal kariye paruhu. The word kadal nowadays refers to only romantic love, but actually in literary Tamil, it means love. It could mean any kind of love. So the word kadalan could refer to even a son or a father or anyone who is very dear to somebody. So here, Shiva asked for, with great love towards his devotee, because he wanted to test him and grant him moksha, Shiva Padam. So he came and asked for this Pillaikari with love. Kadal kodu, kadal kariye paruhu. This kadal kari means Pillaikari because it was made from the very beloved child and made for an even greater love, the love for the Lord. So these two words are so full of meaning. Why Aruṇagirinātha refers to Shiva's demand as being done with love, and the fact that this food was served with the greatest of kind of love. So, Entholar kadal kodu kadal kariye paruhu sengadu mevi prakasa mayil mel azhagod, on this beautiful peacock. Yen kadal malai mudi arumugava. One more kadal appears in this verse. He says this malai, garland which I am making, which could refer to, of course, a floral garland also, or this garland of words, which is this song. Mudi means you take it and wear it on your hair, on your head. Arumugava Amarar Perumale. You six-faced Lord who wears this, you reside in this Tiruchengattankudi, which has this unique special story. Next is Kannappar, a very famous Nayanar, the hunter from Sri Kalahasti, who is the epitome of selfless bhakti. We all know how he was totally willing instantly to dig out his own eyes and offer them to the Lord when he thought that the eyes of the Lord were bleeding. So, totally unselfish and loving hunter. And his bhakti has been lauded in so many places. Many saints have sung about him. Especially worth noting is in the Shivananda Lahari of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, in the 63rd verse entirely, he describes the greatness of his bhakti and says, Bhakti kimna karoti aho vanacharo bhaktavatam sayate. What is it that bhakti cannot do? This vanachara, hunter, has become bhaktavatamsa, the crest jewel amongst all bhaktas. One of the Tiruppugazh songs where Kannappa Nayanmar is mentioned is a Podu Tiruppugazh. Podu means it's not composed in any particular kshetra. It starts with the words Achara Veenan. Because it's a fairly long song, only the second half is taken here. Here in the last two lines, the description of Kannappa Nayanmar's bhakti comes. Kusadu Vedan Umiltaru Neeradi. Lord Śiva bathed in the water which was spat out by this Vedan, by this hunter, Kusad, without any hesitation. He didn't even know it was wrong. Then, Yenum Urai Kura. He also said, O Lord, eat this flesh. And he offered some meat. Man iya avan nuhartaru sedam. And that food was actually sedam or sesham. It was after he had tasted some of it to see if it was cooked properly. Kodam yenamal amudusei. Vedagamadi mudal. This Lord Śiva is described as Veda Agamadi Mudal. He is the leader of the Vedas and the Agamas. And this Lord, Amudusei, he accepted as Nevedyam this Sesham, Kodam Yenamal, without saying that this is not okay, this is not right. Without finding fault in it, he accepted it. Vedagamadi Mudal, Taru Ko. You are our Lord who has been given to us by Shiva. You are the son of Shiva. And you are Lokanatha Kuramagal Perumale. You are the Lord of this universe. You are the Lord of Valli. And in the first two verses here, he also describes the Sura Samharam. How Muruga sent all the Asuras to Yamapuram. This particular Tiruppugazh has been tuned in Hamsa Vinodini Ragam by Guruji Shri A.S. Raghavan very beautifully. We shall see that now. Visala velai suvarida masurar marb tolai pada vetala rasi pasikeda arekuri Meghāravaram yena adir poryatudanar yamapuram மீதேரவேல் கோடமர் செய்யும் இளையோனே கூசாது வேடன் உமிழ்த்தரு நீராடியூன் உன் என்னும் ஊரை கூறாமன் நீய அவன் நுகர் தருசே ஏடம் கோதாம் என்னாமல் அமுது செய் வேதாகமாதி முதல் தரு கோ லோகநாத குரமகள் பெருவாளே முருகா லோகநாத குரமகள் பெருமாளே. The next of the Nayanmar is Mangayar Karasi. Her given name is actually Mani, and she was given this title Mangayar Karasi, the best amongst women or the queen amongst women, by none other than Jnānasambandha. She was the queen of the Pandya kingdom, and as we saw earlier, she was a staunch Shiva Bhakta, while her husband, the king, was a Jain. So she sent the minister Kulachirai, who is another Nayanar, who is a great Shiva Bhakta, to invite Sambandar to Madurai. Kulachirayar went to meet Jnānasambandha, told him about this situation and brought him to Madurai. So in Madurai, by the grace of Sambandar and of course the grace of the Lord, the king and the others were all converted to Shaivism. There are many references to Mangairkarasi and the Pandya king in Tiruppugazh songs. One of them is in this Tiruppugazh, which starts with the words Kalan Vel Kanai. It is composed in the Kshetra Poovalur, which is near Lalgudi. In this, Aruṇagirinātha says, Koonnimir irayonum ஞாலம் ஏத்தியதோர் மாதேவியும் ஆலவாய்ப்பதி வாழ்வாமாறு எனும் ஞான பாக்ய பாலா. So here he clearly says that, O Muruga, you were born as Jnānasambandha. You are that Jnana Bhagya Bala, the wise and blessed child who went to Alavai-padi, which is another name for Madurai. Alavai is the Tamil form of Halasya. And there, these two people, Koonnimir irayonum. Irayon means king, the king who was rid of his hunchback, Koon, and became standing tall and erect, and his Mahadevi, the queen, who is praised by the entire world for her greatness. Ñālam ஏத்தியதோர் மாதேவியும் ஆலவாய்ப்பதி வாழ்வாமாறு எனும். So you wished them well and you blessed them to live a very good life filled with Shiva Bhakti and prosperity. Nindrasir Nedumaran, the Pandya king, is mentioned in many songs as we saw earlier. One of those Tiruppugazh songs is composed in Kadirkamam. It starts with the words Edirilada Bhakti. In the last line, Aruṇagirinātha addresses Muruga as Vazhuthi Koon Nimirtha Perumale. O Lord, you are the one who straightened the back, removed the hunchback of Vazhuthi, which is a title for Pandya kings. In this picture, as we see, when Sambandar came to Madurai, the king was afflicted by Veppu, very high fever, and Sambandar sang this famous Tirunitrupadikam, which starts with the words Mandiramavadu Neeru, Vanavar Meladu Neeru, etc. And he applied the Vibhuti of Lord Śiva of Madurai on the Pandya's body and cured him of his disease. Soon after, the king and all his retinue accepted Sambandar as their guru and converted to Shiva Bhakti. In this song, Aruṇagirinātha, in the first half, he says, give me bhakti which is matchless, and let my heart, which is like an ocean, be filled with thoughts about your feet, meditation of your feet. And he says, you are the Lord who lives in Kadirkamam. Your shoulders are so strong and beautiful like Meru. And your feet have anklets which make a very sweet jingling sound. Yedirilada bhakti tanai mevi இனியத்தாள் நினைப்பை இருபோதும் எதிரில்லாத பக்தி தனை மேவி இனியத்தாள் நினைப்பை இருபோதும் இதயவாரிதிக்குள் உறவாகி எனதுளே சிறக்க அருள்வாயே இதயவாரிதிக்குள் உறவாகி எனதுளே சிறக்க அருள்வாயே கதிரகாம வெற்பில் உறைவோனே கனகமேரு ஓத்த பூயவீரா கதிரகாம வெற்பில் உறைவோனே கனகமேரு ஓத்த பூயவீரா கழலோனே வழுதி கூனிமீர்த்த பெருமாளே மதுரவாணியூற்ற கழலோனே வழுதி கூனிமீர்த்த பெருமாளே கதிர காமவேற்பில் உறைவோனே. This Tiruppugazh was also tuned by Guruji Shri A.S. Raghavan. Next we see Nilakanta Yalpanar. Yalpanar means he was well versed in playing the musical instrument called Yal. He and his wife Matanga Chulamani were devoted to Jnānasambandha and they accompanied him everywhere. So whichever temple he went to, they were part of his group, and whenever he composed a padigam, Yalpanar would play that in his yal. Yalpanar hailed from a town called Tiruppugazh, which is near Vizhupuram. So in the Tiruppugazh of that kshetra, Aruṇagirinātha has made a reference to him. In fact, he refers to the kshetra itself as the kshetra of Nilakanta Yalpanar. This Tiruppugazh starts with the words Pūtār Chūdum. Here, Aruṇagirinātha says, Airpor Tam Vandu Ichayin Magilvodu Vaipai Visum Por Prabai Nedu Madil Yalpanayan Pattinam Maruviya Perumale. O Lord, you live in this town called Tiruppugazh, which is the town of Nilakanta Yalpanar. And this place is a very prosperous town filled with generous donors. We now come to Cheraman Perumal Nayanar, the final one on our list today. He was the king of the Chera country, and there is another title that he has, Kadaritrarivar. He was a friend and follower of Sundaramurti Nayanar. We say this because Sundaramurti Nayanar considered him as his friend, but he considered Sundarar as his guru. He was known for his devotion and generosity. As we can understand, it is not easy to be a king and a great Shiva Bhakta who should have no ego. But we do see instances of such people amongst the 63 Nayanmar. There are Chera, Chola, Pandya and Pallava kings amongst the Nayanmar. So the most important event in the life of Cheraman Perumal is that Sundaramurti Nayanar visited his country, and when he was at a temple called Tiruppugazh, he suddenly lost further interest in worldly life and he requested Shiva to take him back to Kailasa. Immediately, Lord Śiva sent him a white elephant, and Sundarar mounted that white elephant, which is Airavata, and started his journey towards Kailasa in the sky. Seeing this, Cheraman Perumal, he could not bear the thought of life without his guru and dear friend Sundarar. So he got on to his royal horse, he chanted the Panchakshara mantra in its ears, and miraculously the horse started flying, and Cheraman Perumal actually started flying in the air along with Sundarar. In fact, he circumambulated Sundarar and went ahead of him. So this interesting story culminates in both of them reaching Kailasa, and there Cheraman composed a beautiful work, Tirukkailaaya Jnana Ula, in praise of Shiva. And Sundaramurti, on his journey to Kailasa, he composed a beautiful padigam thanking the Lord of Tiruppugazh for sending this elephant for him. And these two, it is said that Lord Varuna brought them to earth and made them available to people on earth. Aruṇagirinātha has referred to Cheraman Perumal as Cherar, and he has referred to this interesting incident of Cheraman ascending to Kailasa on his horse and composing a work called Ula, and that too spontaneously. That's why it's called an Ashu Kavi. Ashu Kavi means composed immediately and spontaneously. Let us see how Aruṇagirinātha has described this. This is found in the Tiruppugazh, which is very famous. Nādavindu Kaladi Namo Nama. Normally sung by everyone at the end of a puja during Deeparadhana, etc. Here he says, Ādaram Payil Ārūrar Thoழமை Sērthal Kondu. So he became a very good friend of Ārūrar, which is Sundaramurti Nayanar. He had this friendship with him. Avarode, therefore along with him, he wanted to go to Kailasa. Avarode Munalinil, long back, Adal Vem Pari Meederi, having mounted on his very powerful horse, Ma Kailayil Ehi, reaching this great Kailasa, Adiyanta Ula Ashu Padiya Cherar. This Cheraman who composed an Ula in Kailasam as an Ashu Kavi. This Cherar's kingdom contains one region known as the Kongu region. So Kongu Vaigavur Nannadadil, in that Kongu region, in the subsection called Vaigavur, is Thiru Avinankudi, which is called Palani today, which is part of Palani today. Avinankudi Valvana Devargal Perumale. O Muruga, you reside in that Avinankudi, which belongs to this Cheraman's country. Let's listen to this song. Ādaram Payil Ārūrar Thoழமை Sērthal Kondavarode Munalinil Adal Vempari Meederi Ma Kailayil Egi Adiyanta Ula Ashu Padiya Cherar Kongu Vaigavur Nannadadil Avinankudi Valvana Devargal Perumale. My thanks to all of you for listening patiently to this lecture on Nayanmar in Tiruppugazh. Taippusam is a day which is very sacred to Muruga and to Śiva, and this lecture gave us an opportunity to dwell on both the gods and their great devotees. Thank you for the opportunity.